there is another Revolution booster that's been announced. And this is a new concept that the OCG has started to do recently. I believe the previous Revolution booster was the first Revolution booster ever, which was the one where they made support for Unchained, Witchcrafter, and Toons, of course. Toon is a deck that, you know, we've talked a little bit about in the last couple of streams and days. That is very powerful in the OCG right now. But even the other two, I mean, if we look at the most recent OCG metagame report, I mean, of course, this does not encapsulate the entirety of the OCG metagame, but at least if this is anything to go by, all three of the decks that have gotten support in the recent Revolution booster are now part of the OCG metagame at a pretty competitive level, honestly. Like, Toons is obviously the most popular deck in the format overall, but even Unchained and Witchcrafter are putting up similar numbers to something like Branded and Sky Striker. They are both, like, all three of those decks are essentially in the top 7 of the metagame pie chart here, which is a lot. You know, top 7 for all three archetypes is pretty good. It's a pretty high impact product, the first Revolution booster pack. And so the second one has been announced already. And you know, this is kind of like, it's kind of like a deck build pack, you know, which is the ones where we get 3 new archetypes, but it's a deck build, but it's that, but instead of getting 3 new archetypes, we get legacy support for 3 decks, right? So for this one, they've chosen Cubic, Marincess, and Ghost Trick, and this is basically all we have so far. We don't actually have any cards to take a look at. But they have announced the 3 archetypes, and I guess we can discuss a little bit of whether we like the choice of those archetypes and how good these may potentially be. But yeah, the Concept Pack Revolution Booster, Cubic, Marincess, and Ghost Trick will go on sale November 21st. So this is quite a few months from now, even for the OCG. So I don't know how soon we can expect the cards to be revealed, but this is in 4 months. As of today, so this is it's gonna take a while for them to get these cards. And similar to the first pack, the pack will include 7 brand new cards for each theme, which is a lot. 7 new cards for a theme. I mean, 7 is the same number that we get for new archetypes in the TCG for the world premiere archetypes. And I always say 7 for a new deck is not a lot, but 7 for an existing deck, 7 support cards, that can be a lot. I mean, sometimes all it takes for an archetype to become good is 1 or 2 good legacy support cards. And here we're working with 7 for each of those decks. And I mean, it was enough to make Toon the best deck in the format in the OCG. And Unchained and Witchcrafter also made their way into the format with 7 new cards. So I guess the question here is, how good are they going to make Marincess, Cubic, and Ghost Trick? And I mean, these 3 archetypes are all, at the moment, nowhere to be found in the format, realistically. The one that was probably the most relevant out of those 3 was Marincess. Marincess was a deck that has been somewhat meta viable, I would say, around, what was it, 2022, 2023? I think Marincess was one of the early examples of those kind of like 1-card combo decks with a lot of hand traps. It just, like, Marincess boards were always relatively low ceiling. You did a couple of 1-card combos, and then you did that. So the thing is, Marincess is a relatively strong concept, you know, like 1-card combos paired with a lot of hand traps is a deck style that to this day is very good. You know, all it takes is a good enough end board and good enough combos. You pair those with hand traps, and if all of your cards are starters and efficient at that, we could be looking at a very strong meta contender with the right support. Cards like Marincess Wave and some other of their extra deck monsters still hold up pretty well. They already have relatively high quality normal summons, you know, and the thing is, it's a Cybers deck with its own Link 1 that searches a card, right? Like, that is already a really strong foundation. And so I would expect with 7 new high-quality Marincess cards, I think this deck could become pretty strong. And it does share a lot of similarities with some of the current meta decks, which is something that I don't know how well received it's going to be, because Marincess also has a card that looks at your opponent's hand. And so we could be looking at potentially a third meta viable one card combo deck in a row. Like first it was Cool Tune, then they made Tunes, and now they're making Marincess support, which, I mean, of course, it's too early to just assume that that's exactly what it's going to be. But realistically, if this deck becomes good, they do have access to a way to look at your opponent's deck. We're forgetting Noroi? No, we're not forgetting Noroi, because K9 was a very, very different style of deck. Like, yes, the deck looked at your hand, but what I'm specifically referring to is the game plan of you play like 15 to 20 hand traps, you resolve one card combos, you get information on your opponent's hand, and then you try to like specifically negate their starters so they can't properly get into the game, which is not what K9 was trying to do. For as much as I hate cards like Ripper and Noroi, it's not quite the same strategy behind it, right? It's not the core identity of K9 is not to look at your opponent's hand and try to negate every starter. But for Cool Tune, for Toon, and for potentially Marincess, that could be how the deck plays. Which I'm not sure how to feel about it. Like, I am starting to get a little bit tired of it. Like when they made Cool Tune, I was one of the few people who wasn't freaking out about Cool Tune in the beginning. But I do feel like it's something that they shouldn't give like every deck. Like not every format should have a deck that works like this. Especially if power creep is involved and the decks get even better. You know, like we shouldn't be making an upgrade to Cool Tune basically in Tunes already, and then maybe Marincess is the same thing. But this is all just an assumption. This is not something that, you know, is guaranteed that the deck is going to look that way. Maybe they are going to turn the deck more into a combo direction. They could also do that because after all, these are all Cybers cards. They have combo potential. They have a lot of good starters already. Maybe they give it a whole bunch of Cybers combo material and the deck is going to end up going into that direction. It's also a possibility. So yeah, personally, I actually, and I guess maybe it's a little bit surprising, but I always thought Marincess was a pretty cool deck so far because it did something that was interesting to me, which was it always made a really fair end. Like, yes, it played a bunch of hand traps to back the board up, but the board itself was really, really fair. Like, it was not even close to comparable to a Cool Tune board or something like that, or even a Yummy board or something like that. It was very, very moderate in terms of what it ended on, you know? So I thought it was fine. Don't they end on some floodgates? I don't think so. No, they have like an unaffected. They have an unaffected one, but that's not a floodgate. Also, it was like unaffected while it was equipped with cards, but you could like out the equipped cards, and then the monster was outable. It was like that was fine. And then they have like the Marincess, what is it? Bubble Reef, where you just like draw cards. So yeah, I think it's I think inherently Marincess, whenever I played I've never played against a Marincess board where I thought to myself like, yeah, that's bullshit. Like that was not something I ever, you know. Wave makes them unaffected, yeah, for a turn, but I never had an issue with that either. Like I would rather have my opponent summon a big monster and then make it unaffected for one turn than like negate my cards. I never felt like Marincess was a toxic deck personally, but it does have a card that looks at hand, yes, but I do think even in those cases it is worth looking at the context, you know. So it does depend on what kind of cards they give Marincess, because yes, if they give Marincess like end board pieces that negate your opponent's cards, it could very well turn into the next Toon or Cool Tune where you just do a little combo, look at your opponent's hand, and then negate some starters. So we will have to wait and see. The bigger question for me personally are the Cubics and the Ghost Tricks. Now, Ghost Tricks in particular, they have seen some play, not as their own deck, but just as like generic XYZs in other strategies. You know, I remember the Pearly days where people were doing some Ghost Trick combos with the Pearly monsters. Of course, Ghost Trick Alucard was a good card when it was first made, but that was in a time where back row removal still mattered. Ghost Trick, however, I will say, does have a couple of really strong cards. Like they have like a, what was it? Which one is the one where you can just search cards over and over? They have a couple of cards that are like not once per turn restricted. Is it Dullahan? The rank 1 that searches a couple times? Of course, they also have an alternate win condition, which is something that, you know. No, Dullahan is not the one that I'm what's the one? Is it Ghost Trick Angel of Mischief? You can also XYZ summon this card using a Ghost Trick XC you control. When the number becomes 10, you win the duel. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to add a Ghost Trick spell from your deck. Yes, you can just add any. This is not hard once per turn. You rank up over any other XYZ, and then you get to search a Ghost Trick spell. So this is really powerful. This is already a really, really powerful card. And Ghost Trick can basically be played in decks that have rank 1s, rank 2s, rank 3s, or rank 4s. It does not matter, right? Because Ghost Trick does have a rank 1 in Ghost Trick Dullahan. They have a rank 2, I think it's called Ghost Trick So Cute Boss. They have a rank 3 in Alucard. And this is a rank 4. So it doesn't, like, at the moment, Ghost Trick is not locked behind anything with those cards. And if there's any deck that can spam any XYZ, you can bridge into Ghost Trick theoretically. So this is an engine that could potentially have a lot of like use cases and a lot of potential in that, as well as it could just become its own deck. And like, here's the thing, if they end up making Ghost Trick its own deck, I don't have an issue with that, as long as this isn't the win condition. I hope that they don't make this the win condition, because I mean, that's probably just going to be an FTK then, right? Like and this is something they do need to be careful with. If they make the Ghost Trick cards too good, maybe someone finds a way to just win the game on the first turn with Ghost Trick Angel of Mischief, which would then be very, very problematic. In all other cases, I wouldn't really have an issue with Ghost Tricks becoming a good deck. I just hope that it doesn't become an FTK with winning the game with Ghost Trick Angel of Mischief. But we'll have to wait and see for that. And then Cubic is the deck that I am not able to give any context for, unironically. I've played against Cubic in my life one time at a regional, like 10 years ago, probably. I don't even remember what I was playing. But like I don't even remember what format. I have no idea. And I don't remember what they did. I remember just being confused, reading their cards, and ultimately I think I ended up winning. But I have no idea what the card quality is like, what the potential is, what they would need to become good, if they are even a fun deck to play or play against. I have no info on Cubic. So for this one, I'm just gonna sit back and wait for the cards to be revealed and then worry about it if the cards sound good. It is an FTK deck from the movie pack. When the movie with alternative Blue Eyes White Dragon came out. Okay. Cubics can OTK going second and burn. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The villain played Cubic. Okay, so is Cubic a villain deck even in the real world? Is it something that only villains play? Fun to play, yes. Play against, not so much. Oh, those are my favorite kind of Yu-Gi-Oh decks. The ones that are fun to play but not fun to play against. That's peak design. Love that. It is too early to make any conclusions, though. Like I said, with Marincess, they could take it a whole bunch of directions. With Ghost Trick, they could take it a whole bunch of directions. And I'm sure with Cubic, it's the same thing. I wonder how you guys feel about the choices in general. Like, are these, if you could pick like 3 archetypes to get legacy support, would this be the archetypes that are on your radar? Because for me, they wouldn't have been. Not because I hate them or anything. It's just because they're not like on my top 5, top 10, top anything of legacy support that I would want. I'm not opposed to the Marincess legacy support, like I said, depending on the direction that they take them in. I've never been a Marincess hater, even though they are Cybers monsters, but I actually thought it was one of the more pleasant decks to play against as well, which is one of the most important factors to me when I evaluate a deck. I like to look at how fun is it to play against, and I've had a couple of really good games against Marincess in the past, so I'd be down as long as the support is well designed. The other two I have like basically no connection to.